Hey everyone, hope you're having a flare-free day. My name is Em and I'm really happy to see you here today. If you are suffering with a chronic illness or live with endometriosis, this is the channel for you. Everything that comes out of this channel is related to life with a chronic illness and not only learning how to survive with it, but to thrive with it. If that interests you, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the notification bell for similar videos to this one. Now, this video is all about how to deal with endometriosis pain and flare-ups while at school. Now, this can range from elementary school, high school, university, whatever type of school you're in. This is definitely the video for you. So if you're interested in learning some tips and tricks on how to manage endometriosis while at school, then please keep on watching. Now, when it comes to endometriosis in school, it is very telling if you don't have a suspected endometriosis diagnosis yet. If you are missing school because of period pain or menstrual cycle pain, that is something to kind of keep note of and to talk to your doctor about. You should never be having to miss school or the things that you love to do based on your period pain. That's definitely a warning sign from your body calling you to have more support and resources with pain management. In Canada, based on a 2018 report, approximately 1 in 7 individuals miss school because of their period. So don't feel embarrassed or out of sorts or that you're the only one that's missing school because of your period. It is definitely something that needs to be investigated, but know that you're not alone in that. Now, when it comes to endometriosis and school, if you saw one of my very early videos, I talk about how I experienced my very first endometriosis flare-up of pain, and it happened in my high school hallway, very early morning. It was a very traumatizing experience, and probably similar to you, your first flare-up of pain came out of the blue. You may have had very normal, quote unquote, periods before that flare up and you didn't know or associate that pain to your period. Looking back, I thought my appendix had exploded. I thought this is the amount of pain that someone feels when something is not right with their body. And because I had a normal period before that, I didn't associate it with my period. Now, knowing more about my body over a course of 13 years since that moment, I've really honed in on how those tips and tricks that I use now in my day-to-day life at work could have been helpful in my endometriosis journey at school. So these are my number one tips and tricks that I would use. If you have similar ones that you've used during school, please feel free to comment them down below. This community is for you. So if there's anything that I've missed and that have helped you, that might help someone else in their journey while at school. Tip number one for managing endometriosis at school is to have a bag of supplies with you in your locker as well as on your person. So what I mean by this is having a bag of your medication, and please seek medical advice before taking new medication. Pads, tampons, extra undies in case you do leak through. That's always something to keep in mind. An extra baggie to put those undies in if you do have a leak or something that has happened at school, as well as hot sticky pads. So in Canada, we have things called hot paws, and you kind of just you can get them at the dollar store, you can get them at Shoppers. They're little sticky hot pads that you can heat up and warm up and pop them in your jeans or pants or at the lower part of your back. If you are just dealing with mild cramping or moderate cramping, these kind of hot paws are really beneficial to just have a discreet way of having heat relief for those cramps. Now, I recommend having it both in your locker as well as on your person. So having those bags of supplies in both areas is really beneficial at school. For myself, I grew up in Toronto and I had a 3-story high school my classes were all over the place and a lot of students went to the school. So I didn't necessarily have time or the ability to get to my locker to get my supplies if I was having a flare-up or saw it coming on. So always carrying that same type of supplies on your person can really help make the experience more manageable because you can just run to the bathroom and kind of deal with things right then and there instead of running to where you need to go to get your supplies when you might have a flare-up come on. So highly recommend having 2 areas to have your supplies both ready and on hand. And with those supplies, it's nice to just refill them every once in a while so that if you're having an experience of endo flare-ups or pain, you're not running into the scenario where your supplies have run out. Tip number 2 for managing endo at school is to talk to your teachers and coaches about your experience and your story. Now, this is going to depend. So if you don't feel comfortable talking to your teachers or coaches, we'll get to tip number 3, which will help you. But if you do want to share your experience and want to let them know what's going on, I feel like that can be really beneficial in letting them know your experience and your story and why you may be asking to leave the classroom midway to deal with a flare-up. You can kind of make the experience more accommodating for yourself. So you can have a little signal to your teacher saying, I'm experiencing a flare-up. You don't have to announce it to the class, and you can just leave with permission from them, so that you can have more accommodations in place to help you deal with your endo pain without worrying about what is my teacher thinking of me just getting up and going, or for them saying, no, I'm really gonna be in pain in class and I don't wanna experience that. It's just extra stress that you don't really necessarily have to put on yourself. So something I would really recommend is talking to your teachers and coaches about your experience and what you're going through and how they can accommodate you in that experience. Now, if you don't feel comfortable talking to your teachers and coaches about what you're experiencing, and for myself, I didn't have that luxury because I didn't have a name to my pain. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So the one thing that helped me in high school was having a doctor's note. It doesn't state exactly what I'm going through or what my health condition is. Again, we didn't really know what was going on, but at this point, I really associated it with gym class and exercise. So I had a doctor's note for my gym teacher specifically, but for yourself and knowing endometriosis, it happens all the time, and it's not just when exercising is happening. You could just be sitting and eating an orange and then you have a flare-up. So having a doctor's note can really help manage the expectations of the staff, so teachers and coaches, and help create accommodations that work for you without letting them know what your health condition is. So tip number 3 is getting a doctor's note. Number 4, which kind of goes along the same realms of having more accommodations, if you do happen to miss school, you're not alone if that happens. Again, 1 in 7 in Canada, based on a 2018 study, 1 in 7 miss school because of period pain. So you're not alone in that. And I've done it myself. Like, I was like, bye, I'm not going to school. This is like crazy. I can't even move my own body out of bed, let alone write or take notes and do all that. So if you do happen to miss school, I would recommend for tip number 4 is asking for accommodations for notes to be sent to you virtually. So we live in a digital age. It's really important to have those notes sent to you so that you don't fall behind in classes and that you still feel part of the classroom environment while you're staying at home during that day or that week. Okay, tip number 5 is to pack your own lunch and snacks. Now, I know the feeling of walking by the cafeteria at school and smelling the pizza, or like smelling whatever they had going on in there. And if you have a cafeteria at school, you know what I'm talking about. It's like the best smell because you're like, this is just junk food that it's waiting to be in my body. But I find that having anti-inflammatory foods that I know what's going into it, I know what's going into my body, can really help reduce my flare-ups of pain because I'm reducing the inflammation that's caused in my body based on what I put into it. So I find that packing a nutritious lunch and snack, so like fruits and veg, and making it very hearty and healthy, can really help minimize the amount of discomfort I feel throughout the rest of the day. So avoiding bloating and discomfort. Tip number 6, and it goes in line with lunch and snack, is to have water on you. Now, I find with endometriosis pain and flare-ups, if I'm feeling cramping and discomfort, water really does help soothe the process. It's not necessarily going to avoid the flare-up happening, but I find that dehydration can really exacerbate cramping, and that's just the number one thing to avoid, especially during an endometriosis flare-up. So having water and drinking it throughout the day is really helpful and beneficial for avoiding additional cramping that may be caused by dehydration. Tip number 7, and this kind of depends on you and your unique body and circumstances, but knowing my body now, I find that certain movements cause me to have very painful flare-ups, and they can kind of create that flare-up to happen. So when you're at gym class, you can talk to your coach or your gym teacher about avoiding certain moves and exercises if they're requiring you to do so for like a beep test or whatever it may be, because that might cause a further flare-up. So for instance, when I'm doing abdominal crunches and I'm twisting and turning, that's really gonna aggravate my abdominal pain, and that's gonna kind of cause a flare-up for me. And I don't know if that's the same for you, but if it is, you could just speak to your coach one-on-one individually, aside from everybody else, and just say, listen, I have this doctor's note, and part of that is I have extreme discomfort during these certain movements. Is there another one that I can do or take part in? So just know that there are accommodations that can be made, and that if you know your body to that extent of what can cause flare-ups, talking about it with those that are running the class can really help be beneficial and create accommodations for you. Tip number 8, again, goes with your comfort level, but if you feel comfortable, I would recommend talking to your friend group about what you are experiencing and what's going on, so that you can kind of raise awareness as well as gain support from your friend group. If, let's just say, at lunch or during an outside activity, you're not feeling like yourself, and they can kind of support you in that moment and not make others question what you're doing or why you're stepping away. I find that can really help, and your friend group is there to support you, right? If they're not, they're maybe not the right friends for you, but I find that having that friend group to really support me when I'm having a flare-up and to kind of make the experience less isolating and lonely can really help make the difference between a very painful flare-up and a very painful flare-up, but with support. So yeah, talking with your friends might be helpful in that scenario. And tip number 9, and please follow this one, is to not be hard on yourself if you are missing school because of your pain. This is something that I've come to realize that is out of my control. I can't control the pain that I feel. I can't control each flare-up. I can't control the amount of pain in each flare-up, and I can't control when they happen. So being harder on myself for having a flare-up, or for being embarrassed about it happening, or for missing school or whatever it may be, I was really hard on myself, and it made the journey extra hard, because not only was I dealing with a very excruciatingly painful chronic illness, but I was also dealing with the mental battle that I was putting on myself and my body to succeed when I wasn't feeling 100%. So tip number 9 is to please feel easy on yourself, because you're going through something that is excruciating. It's excruciating. You don't have to sugarcoat it with me. I know the pain that you're experiencing. So if you're ever feeling like you need to reach out and to talk to someone, there are tons of resources, hopefully at your school as well, but your doctor's office as well. And the endometriosis community here, including myself, is always here for you in your journey. I am so incredibly proud of you. If no one has told you yet, I'm incredibly proud of you, because balancing school and endometriosis can be a battle sometimes, but having these tips and tricks and accommodations in place can really help make the experience more manageable, with supports in place to help you through the journey. I found that having these made me feel less alone and less isolated in the whole experience, even though I didn't have a name to my pain quite yet. So I hope that you have a great day and a great rest of your week. If you are experiencing endometriosis in school right now, please feel free to pop in your tips and tricks in the comments below. They can help everyone else in their journey succeed with endometriosis. The more we share, the more we can support others in their journey. Okay, I'll talk to you on the next one.